Back in the laundry room, and today I'm going to be adding a new step for the door right here. So originally this door used to be over here, but when I remodeled the kitchen it moved to this side. So you can see the void, this gray void that's right here. This is where the old step used to be. The doorway is about 10.5 inches or so off the concrete. So I'm gonna make a new step that's roughly about half the height. And eventually when I tile this whole floor, the new step will get tiled as well. So let's get to it. All right, first step is to prep the area. I removed the molding and cleared out some of the other junk. I will remove the drywall against the wall, but first I need to figure out exactly where the step is going and how big it'll be. I'm using 2x6 boards as the frame because they are right about half the elevation between the floor and the doorway. I was very careful to make the placement centered on the door, with the boards being perfectly vertical. I marked the outline of the frame and used a multi-tool to cut out the drywall. When the frame is removed after the fact, there will be a gap between the concrete and the drywall on the sides, but that's okay because it'll eventually be covered with molding. I spent quite a bit of time making the step perfectly level, adding shims wherever needed. As of right now, the frame is kinda just sitting there without any way to keep it from shifting around. Since the ground is concrete and the wall is stucco, there isn't an obvious way to secure it. My solution was to stretch boards from the opposite wall. That way, the frame will stay in place, even under pressure from the weight of the concrete. I cut up some rebar to make a support framework for the inside of the step. Since this is a relatively small pour, I don't know if this was absolutely necessary, but I can't pass up a chance to make some sparks. I drilled some holes to sink the rebar and make it more secure in place. Will this make a difference? I don't know, probably not. But it's not going to make it worse, so it's worth a try. The weight of the concrete alone will probably be mostly what prevents it from moving, because concrete is freaking heavy. As you're about to see, I'm not the most experienced at concrete work. I should have mixed this up into a wheelbarrow, but got a little bit too advantageous. I just dumped an entire 60-pound bag in the bucket and definitely didn't mix it up well enough. I had to do a little bit of mixing by hand after dumping it in the form. The second batch was a half bag, and that was much more manageable, though I did start putting in a bit more water than the bag recommended. Otherwise, it just seemed too dry. The next few batches went well. The last batch topped it off, and then I began the process of finishing the concrete. I used a scrap wooden board with a straight edge to screed the surface and make it nice and flat. I used a reciprocating saw without a blade to vibrate the sides and hopefully fill in any gaps. Though since my first few batches weren't the most well mixed, it's likely to not look perfectly smooth on the sides. This step will be entirely covered with tile, but I still took this opportunity to practice finishing the concrete nicely. After the concrete had some time to cure, maybe an hour or two, I used a rounding trowel to round the corners. I went back and forth with that and my finishing trowel to really make the top surface smooth and flat. A few hours later, when the concrete had time to solidify, I removed the wood forms to reveal how well it looked as a whole. It wasn't bad, not the best, but it really doesn't matter as long as it's sturdy. Once I do the tile, it'll be covered. I made a final pass with my trowels, and then this step was done. I let it sit for a day before putting any weight on it. Having a step here may seem trivial, but it makes a huge difference going through this door day in and day out. I still have quite a bit to learn as far as concrete work goes, but I call this a job well done. Okay, that's it for now. See ya.